PressBox writer Tim Richardson takes you inside the world of sports business with the PressBox Sports Business Report, sponsored by Natty Bow Gear, only at PressBoxOnline.com. And welcome back to Inside PressBox. The Orioles continue their climb toward their first postseason appearance in 14 seasons, and now here with me to discuss how the Birds plan to keep the Oriole magic alive coming into the home stretch is CSNBaltimore.com's Orioles beat writer Rich Dubroff. And Rich also happens to be my friend. Rich, thank you very much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Great. Thanks very much for having me, Stan.
Rich, it's almost like the old Jim Mara thing about playoffs. Were you saying playoffs? You know, the news has been around. I know you just wrote about it the other day. The Orioles really have to prepare as if they're a playoff team.
Well, right you are, Stan. You know, last week they met with the networks. TBS and Fox were both in town to talk about postseason telecasts with the Orioles, and there haven't been any, as you mentioned, in 15 years. So that had to be done, and now they've begun invoicing season ticket holders, asking them to pony up for playoff tickets, and it's they're going to be some highly coveted tickets.
I'll bet they are. Now, let me ask you this. So people, you know, the Angelos organizations can sometimes take criticism for anything under the sun in the past. They're not simply doing this as some sort of, money grab to their fans. This is expected and needed to do by all major league teams that are in the playoff hunt.
It was suggested to them. The Washington Nationals have already done it. But the Orioles have to prepare because there's another round in postseason this year, as you know, the wild card. So there could be as many as 10 home games at Oriole Park if the Orioles happen to make it all the way to the World Series.
Now, let's get back on the playing field. What has surprised you at each sort of marker in the season? Let's start with like Memorial Day. Then you got the 4th of July, and now we're almost, then you got the All-Star break. Now we're almost at Labor Day, and the club keeps continuing to be there.
Well, actually, it was funny. Between Memorial Day and July 4th, that was sort of the most difficult time for the Orioles.
That's when they got swept by the Mets up in New York, and they just didn't look like they were going to stick.
No, and actually, they fell all the way down to 2 games above 500 a couple of times. That was their low point of the season. And then they've shown a second wind, which is very, very impressive. You know, some of the guys in the bullpen look to be a little tired, and they've really come on again. And some of the acquisitions by Dan Duquette, Omar Quintanilla, Nate McLouth, those nuggets, as Buck Showalter likes to call them, have really come through. And I think that when they talk about at the beginning of the season, well, just because we're starting with 25 guys doesn't mean we're going to end with those 25 guys. They've used almost double that.
Yeah.
As of now, they've used just under 50 players.
They seem to have decided that. It sounded like lip service early in the year that they would, the 25-man roster is just a number. But we'd never really seen it handled this way before. They've basically used 40 to 50 guys at their beck and call.
Well, they took a lot of criticism early in the year. Oh, well, they're signing Bill Hall, and they're signing Nate McLouth and Lou Ford. Guys, what do they want these old guys for? And Miguel Tejada. Of course, Tejada never made it out of AAA. But what Dan Duquette has done is, he said, if somebody can help us for a week, and they're better than the other guy that we've had in the farm system, let's use them for a week. It doesn't mean we're going to use them forever. You know, Bill Hall was there for a couple of weeks, and then he moved on. Steve Pearce was there for a couple of weeks, well, a little longer than that. Then he moved on. Now it's Omar Quintanilla's turn, and Nate
it's Manny Machado.
Well, Manny Machado was really there for the long term.
Yeah. Now, tell me this. You know, obviously Duquette and Showalter get most of the credit. When you reflect in recent Oriole history, will fans look back or people, experts, and say, you know who really got this started was Andy MacPhail. He brought it up to a certain level that they were able, he did the heavy lifting, and now Buck and Dan are able to benefit from some of that. Any truth to that?
There's a whole lot of truth to that, because there are 5 key position players on the Orioles. Nick Markakis, Adam Jones, Manny Machado, Matt Wieters, and J.J. Hardy. And he was responsible for 4. He was responsible for 4 of them. He didn't draft Nick Markakis. Markakis was already there. He didn't draft Matt Wieters. Matt Wieters was drafted 2 weeks before he was signed, but he was given the authority to go out and pay above market for Matt Wieters, which his predecessors may not have been. So, and then he drafted Machado. He got J.J. Hardy for nothing, basically. So Andy MacPhail gets a lot of credit for that. He's going to get credit for helping the farm system and for the wonderful training facility they have in Sarasota. Because for years we all complained about how horrible it was that the Orioles minor leaguers were 4 hours away from their major leaguers in Fort Lauderdale, and now they're all in the same city. And as you know, it's a great facility, and Andy gets a huge amount of credit for it.
Hey, we had you on to talk about the Orioles. Tell us about the coverage you do at csnbaltimore.com. I mean, we're slightly competitors in a way. We have Matt Palmer writing baseball for us, but you do a super job.
Thank you.
Tell us what viewers or users of CSN Baltimore can get out of their Orioles coverage with Rich Dubroff.
Well, we like to, at csnbaltimore.com, there's daily coverage, there's game coverage, and I like to do a lot of analysis, a lot of longer think pieces, looking ahead, looking back. And so I think that we provide really comprehensive Orioles coverage, and I think excellent Ravens coverage too.
Hey, real quick in the remaining time, in the next 2 weeks, I guess we have to vote for Oriole MVP, maybe 2.5 weeks. Who is it to you right now?
Right now, I'm torn between Jim Johnson and Adam Jones,
yeah.
And I think Wei-Yin Chen is a decent third candidate.
All right, thank you very much for coming in. It's been a pleasure sitting next to you in the press box. Rich Dubroff, he does a super job at csnbaltimore.com. Thank you, Rich. Inside PressBox is going rock climbing with local sports climber Nicole Henson after the break, so don't go away. Go to MarylandGaming.net right now for all the latest news and information on local casinos, horse racing, and the lottery. That's MarylandGaming.net, powered by PressBox.